It has been 22 years. Hard to believe it's been so long since the 6.8 Nisqually earthquake rocked Western Washington, sent bricks falling off of the facades and the buildings in Seattle's Pioneer Square, furniture flying, chandeliers swaying all over the Pacific Northwest. And of course, it's also no secret that in the next 30 years or so, we are probably going to have another really big earthquake when the Cascadia subduction zone has a good little snap out there off of the coast. So it's time again, and the Nisqually earthquake is a good reminder to think about having yourself ready. And with that in mind, I am joined by Kenton Brine. He is president of the Northwest Insurance Council. Kenton, thanks for joining us. And the first thing I wanted to ask you about is the council has some pretty good advice on how to get yourself ready, but firstly, how to react when an earthquake hits. If you're at home, if you're in the office, if you're in the car, what do you recommend?
Well, thanks for having me, Ryan. It's good to be with you. I think that the three key words, if you're in a building, your home or an office, the three key words are drop, cover, and hold. So, drop down, get under something sturdy or in a door frame, and hold on until the shaking stops. And I think for a lot of people, the instinct is to run either into a different room or try to run outside, and that's not recommended. Get yourself under something sturdy and hold on to those table legs and wait for the shaking to stop. That's the key. If you're out driving in your car and you feel an earthquake hitting, try not to panic and speed up or swerve all over. Just drive over to the side of the road slowly and come to a full stop, and then stay in your car and wait for that shaking to stop too. But unlike when you're inside a building, don't head under an overpass to protect yourself. Stay out in the open. Overpasses can obviously, being made of cement and rebar, they can crumble on you. So make sure you're out in the open if you can, and stop your car there and wait for the shaking to stop. So those are two key things to react to if you feel an earthquake.
Yeah, the part about being in my car never would have occurred to me. I mean, that's just something I always assume I'll be at home or in the office. But, with traffic the way it is in the 21st century, any one of us could be certainly stuck in it or out on the road when an earthquake hits. Now, in terms of preparing for a major disaster, what are the council's recommendations?
Well, in terms of preparing yourself and your family, so there's sort of two areas to think about here. There's your financial preparedness, and then there's your family's safety. And of course, we always prioritize talking about safety because it's just really important to plan ahead for these kind of events. So the folks at the Department of Emergency Preparedness here in the state of Washington can help you design a kit to be ready if you are cut off from supplies for a period of time. At least 3 days of supplies and up to 2 weeks of supplies is a good way to protect yourself. But also things like having a disaster plan in your family. If you were not all together in the house, the kids are at school, you're at work, someone else is at home, where will you meet up if you have to meet up in a location that's not your home? And how will you get there? And how will you communicate with each other if you can't rely on cell phone communications? So having some thought about and discussions within your family about just what will you do if you are not all together in the same place when an emergency like that strikes. And then having the appropriate supplies, and that includes everything from food to medicines to dog food and cat food for your beloved pets. Also, first aid kit is a good thing to have on hand. Those space blankets that help keep you warm if you are stuck without heat and that sort of thing. So just planning ahead for those kinds of things. All that information is available online for the kind of equipment that you can get. You don't have to have a massive storage area in your home for these things. Just having some basic supplies like water, food, medicine, the things that you need for daily life are the place to start.
I'm glad you mentioned water because I was going to tease you about leaving that off of your original list, but certainly an earthquake could bust the pipe. So having water that you can drink and brush your teeth and, if necessary, a basic bath is a good idea too. The other thing that you did leave off the list, but I know that your release has it from the Northwest Insurance Council, and that is you want to have a battery operated radio in case the power goes out, because guess what? Northwest News Radio is where you are going to tune to get all the updated information. And, speaking personally, I can guarantee if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, long before my shift starts and the big earthquake hits, you better believe by 3:15 I'll be out the door and ready to go to work, and we'll all be ready to keep you up to date. So
Very true, very true.
definitely an important thing. Now let's talk about, because insurance is your business, what you need. And I was thinking about this before we talked, because I'm the kind of guy an insurance salesperson loves, because like my car insurance is the most coverage I can get. My renter's insurance is the best I can get. My health insurance is the gold standard. But I would be the first one to assume, let's say, that my homeowner's policy or my renter's policy also includes earthquake coverage, and that's not the case. So what do we need to think about in terms of making sure we have the right insurance when we're in a disaster?
So it's very important to recognize the fact that homeowners insurance policies don't include as standard coverage earthquake coverage, and especially here around the Puget Sound area, it's important to note that they also don't include flood coverage if there's a tsunami following an earthquake. So those are two coverages that are not part of your homeowner's policy. They're not part of a standard business owner's policy, and oftentimes they're not part of a renter's policy either. However, these coverages are available typically, even here in earthquake-threatened Puget Sound region. Not every insurer offers them, but those that do offer them as a standalone separate policy that you add on to your homeowner's policy. And then other insurers, if they don't write that coverage themselves, they work with an earthquake insurance company that will write those policies on their behalf. So those policies are pretty widely available. They can be, they're not exceedingly expensive unless you have a home that is really going to suffer significant damage even from the most minor earthquakes. And these homes do exist around Seattle. You think about homes that are on top of a bluff and made out of brick. Those homes are most likely to suffer devastating damage even from a smaller earthquake. So some companies will charge more for those policies than others, and some companies may not write them at all. But from what I've heard in the Puget Sound region, earthquake policies are pretty widely available for most homes and businesses in our area. So it's a good idea, if you don't have that coverage, to start with a conversation with your insurance agent or company and find out what your options are, find out what it's going to cost you, so you're not guessing at what those coverages might be, and so that you're not surprised if a disaster does occur to find out you're not covered.
Definitely some important advice, because I know I say I have the best renter's insurance, but I know I have not added an earthquake rider or even a standalone policy, as you mentioned, to that. So I personally will be making that call as well as other people should. Now, you have the insurance. What do you need to think about in terms of what to do after a disaster hits?
Well, I'm even going to say, before a disaster hits, another really important thing to do is have a home inventory. You know, a time of crisis is not the time when you want to be trying to figure out and remember what was in the home that was destroyed. This can be a big problem in wildfire areas too, especially if you think about how a wildfire destroys everything and just levels it, and there's nothing there to even look at. In the case of an earthquake, you might still be able to see things inside your home, but you may not be able to get back in there and do that inventory after something happens. So we do encourage people. There are apps available online. Some insurance companies offer them. Some are, apps that you get on the secondary market. But these will help you. Frankly, even something as simple as walking through your home with your mobile device and recording the things that are in your house. And as you buy new things, add new things to your home that are furnishings or appliances or electronics, keep those receipts, shoot pictures of them on your phone, take some notes so that you're not completely lost when it comes time to try to account for the things that you've lost after a disaster. And then, once a disaster does occur, first of all, make sure you and your family are safe and you're in a safe location. If you can access your insurance policy information, if it's in a safe inside your home, or you've stored it in the cloud, that's even better. Contact your insurance company or your insurance agent as soon as possible to get that claims process started. things like additional living expenses to help set you up in a hotel room, things like initial payments for contents replacement and getting repairs done. Those things come, the sooner you get that call into your insurance company or agent, the sooner that process gets underway.
So, 22 years ago seems like a long time ago, but obviously the insurance business was, well in place even at that point. Let's take a look back. What did the insurance industry face as people started filing claims after Nisqually?
Well, it was a pretty serious disaster, even though I think we have depending on where you are in the state, about 10 to 20% of Washington residents have earthquake insurance. They purchased it for themselves. So even back then, there were some, I'm going to say about 9,500 claims were filed and over $300 million in damage claims were paid out. That number could obviously have been significantly higher if more of Washington's residents in Western Washington had earthquake coverage on hand, but many of them did not.
So, lesson learned then, a lot of people weren't able to get any kind of recovery or any help because they didn't have those add-ons, is what you're saying.
Yes, that's true. If you don't have earthquake coverage, there's not much your insurer can do for you unless you have other damage not related to the earthquake. And that's always an unfortunate thing for people to find out after the fact. So we do want people to be aware that it's an additional coverage. It is available. It is oftentimes affordable. One of the things that people are concerned about, once you have the coverage, it's not like your standard homeowners policy where you have a slight percentage of your value of your home or of your policy that you pay as a deductible. It can be 20 to 25%, which means a significant out-of-pocket cost for you when you're going to replace your destroyed home. On the other hand, if you don't have it, what you're relying on is loans, grants, assistance from the federal government that might be slow in coming, that might be incomplete in terms of what it provides. And while your home is being repaired or you can't live in it, you're having to pay those expenses to live outside your home, and you're having to make your house payment. So it is important to consider earthquake coverage and just know if it's the right coverage for you and it's affordable for you.
That brings up a good point. You had mentioned that, obviously the money starts coming in to do repairs or replacement of things or to help you out with a hotel. When you're in a situation where you have one of these earthquake policies and you are out of the home, but you're still making payments on it, do those policies help with that at all? Help you keep up with the payments?
They're not designed to make house payments for you, but they are designed to help you manage the additional living expenses of being outside your home. So presumably, unless something other terrible has happened, you still have your job, you're able to go to work, you're able to still make income. So you're still able to make the payments that you owe to your bank for your house, but it's the extra costs of living, whether it's a hotel or you have to rent an apartment, or you just need meals and that sort of thing. That's what those payments are designed to help pay for.
And the one thing we didn't talk about, it's not just home or renter's insurance, it's car insurance too, you have to think about, isn't it?
It is, but if you have comprehensive coverage for your vehicle, that's really a no-fault coverage. It kind of doesn't matter what causes the damage to your car, unless you do it intentionally to your own car, in which case that's insurance fraud. So don't do that. But if you have comprehensive and collision coverage, in addition to your liability insurance policy, then whether it's bricks that fall on your car or a tree or part of your house or another car or any of those things, that's typically going to be covered by your comprehensive insurance policy.
All right, Kenton, I think we have covered a lot of ground here. What have I not thought of that we need to think about in this situation?
Well, the only thing I can really conclude with is the same thing that we hear from the seismologists and the geologists and the experts. We don't know if or when this mega quake will occur. So if you've been thinking about it, and that's why these things come up, like the anniversary of the Nisqually quake, we've seen what happened in Turkey recently. Earthquakes are entirely unpredictable. They're working towards science that can alert people a few seconds ahead of an earthquake so they can duck and cover and hold. But they haven't developed a science where we know an earthquake's going to hit. with that in mind, while you're thinking about it, now's the time to think about that home inventory, the time to think about that emergency kit, and the time to think about calling your insurance company or your agent to know what you're covered for and what it might cost you to add earthquake and tsunami coverage.
Kenton Brine, president of the Northwest Insurance Council. Kenton, thanks so much. You're always incredibly helpful to us.
A pleasure to be with you, Ryan, and good luck. And I hope all's well with you and your family and the listeners to Northwest News Radio.
Thanks. Same to you.